Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We have a quorum present, so at this time, we are calling the City of Akron Art Commission meeting to order. So we will move to the agenda. First order of business is the minutes from our last meeting in January. Everyone was given those in advance. Is there any feedback or edits needed to the minutes? This is where we need everyone on camera to vote on the approval. Thank you. All right. Motion to approve our minutes.
Moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say aye. All right, the minutes have been approved. So moving on to the next thing on the agenda is the amended rules. So last meeting, we had talked about adding 2 additional rules that every commissioner needs to be available at least to 3/4 of the meetings. And then the second one was that any public art commission proposal must be received 4 weeks in advance of our next commission meeting for our review. Was there any edits or feedback on that? Do I have a motion to adopt the rules?
I make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say aye. All right, the rules have been adopted. Moving on to the next order of business is our old business. So we have put in an order with the Devo tire removals. Summer put in a removal order with the city of Akron. So all of those Devo tires that we have been talking about, there is an order to remove them from any of those public spaces that we identified at our last meeting. So hopefully those will be removed if they haven't been already. And to please, if you see any in the future, just let us know. And that goes for any public art that's not supposed to be there. If you see something, just let me and Summer know, and we'll be happy to put in that order. On to the next agenda item is new business. I have an update about commissioners. Larissa has sent in her resignation as a commissioner, public art commissioner, just because of timing. She's taken on a new role as vice president, and a lot of the after school activities happen during this time for her. So she's given her notice to Summer about her resignation. So we'll be filling in 2 more commissioner roles, which Summer is working on. And if you have any recommendations, feel free to always email Summer, anyone that you would recommend as part of the commission.
If you have their resume, please forward the resume to me as well, and we'll take a look at that.
Summer, were you gonna send us a list of the specific wards that needed representation or that were overrepresented so that we sort of know where to grab some folks?
I can.
Would you? That'd be great.
Yes, and I'm going to share in the chat. As part of our contact sheet, it lists our wards as well. You can take a look at that as well to see who we need to identify. Everyone's ward should be listed. So it looks like wards 5, 6, and 7 are possibilities. And if you have an updated ward, you should have the editing capacity to be able to update this sheet directly.
Actually, the wards we need would be 3, 6, and 7. Now, if we need to duplicate because there's no one in those wards, that's totally fine too. But that was a old one, Cat, with the 5, 6, 7.
Gotcha.
So yeah, just we'll update it to 3, 6, 7.
Cool. Awesome. And we can talk more about this at our next meeting, but Larissa was our vice chair. So if anyone wants to nominate themselves or nominate someone else to fill in that role, please email Summer and we can take a vote on that, hopefully at our next meeting, to get someone to fill in that role. Did anyone want to nominate themselves at this time? Okay, we'll talk more about that at our March meeting. All right. So then if there's nothing else about commissioners, we can move on in the agenda, which would be our budget. So I've sent everyone the budget that we have as a proposal. We are going to be using $25,000 from the portion of that $100,000 gift that we received for this year. And I also sent everyone that design for local proposal. So definitely open to the table. Anyone's feedback on how to make this budget fit in with that $25,000 that we have.
I read through the designing local proposal, and it seems to me that there's quite a bit of it that doesn't directly apply to or has them working with the Public Arts Commission. So I think that we definitely shouldn't be responsible for the entire $30,000. And maybe what we should do is sort of, towards the end, it had that they were charging $100 an hour for no more than, with a project total of no more than $30,000, which is 300 hours. So maybe we, look at the things that included us in their proposal, that, meeting with us monthly and a couple of other items, and estimate a number of hours per month that we think that might be, and sort of put our contribution for that budget item there. I was thinking that, beginning next month, 5 hours per month seemed like a reasonable amount of time for the things that they had included as Public Art Commission items, which would put us at around a $5,000 budget item for us. I don't know. That's where I was.
Yeah, I agree that I liked some of the things that were listed, but I don't think that we should put the full 30,000 on that line item. And especially if they're going to help us facilitate any public art projects, I would like to see some money in the bucket of actually doing a public art project.
Yeah, that item I think we should leave at around that $15,000 mark, and put most of our eggs in that bucket.
Hey, Kat, I'm having some technical difficulties internally here. Can you put into the chat the link to the budget?
Yes.
Between Gmail accounts and things, we just got a new system set up and things are not all configured yet.
Okay. I shared it with your personal Gmail account, so that might be a reason why. Let me know if that the link I dropped in the chat doesn't work for you.
All right, I'll check.
If everyone can get with Kat, well, shoot an email or you can copy me as well. Let me know exactly what we're looking for designing local to do. Jill and Katie, you guys gave some great suggestions. If you guys can just put that in writing and send it over, and then we can compile an actual contract, and I'll speak with my director and see what we can come up with by speaking to Designing Local and see what they can do for us.
You bet.
I'm sorry, that's for everyone. I just said the two names because those are the ones that spoke up.
What are the training fees? Like, who is training us?
For
Training
that,
fees. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, that line item, I included that as part, if we wanted to take parts in any, like Americans for the Arts workshops, anything on public arts that we would be interested in. So we can definitely look at if we want to lower that or take that in comparison to the designing local aspect too, since they could provide a lot of that training as well.
So I just have a couple thoughts. One on the public art projects for 15,000. Like I mean, and maybe some of you already done some research on this. I just don't know if that is a accurate amount. Seems low to me. Given the I think that I think we've talked about like a subcommittee that would be put together to assess where is that going to go, all that kind of stuff, get community input, all of that. All of those elements cost a lot of money as well. So that's something that comes up. And I just want to understand the designing local. We have it here for the $30,000, but yet we received a grant or designing. I'm sorry, designing local is different. I'm getting it mixed up with Design for Good. Sorry, let's try it. So just answered my own question. And the only other thing comes to my mind is, we started this commission with a sort of assessing the current public art that we have, and we had the big presentation and things of that sort. And now my next question is, what are we going to do with that? And what needs to be cleaned up, or what, and what are the expenses to that? So part of me is going to the thought process of why don't we clean up what the city currently has in public art, and then assess and figure out what it would be that we'd want to do with a public art project. Where does that go? How do we want that to roll out? Things like that. So those are just, my opinion on that. I see you have the curator to assess the collection. I think that's important there. I think that's good. So that helps with taking a step forward.
Yeah, and I have reached out to a consultant about assessing our already public arts. And so I had reached out about the Rubber City statue specifically, and then some of those other Welcome to Akron statues, since I felt like the metal and all of that was important to take care of. So I'm still waiting to hear back what that would cost. So hopefully I can get that a better idea of that at our next meeting. I might have to reach out to someone else in regards to that, but I also think we can prioritize what does need to happen, and hopefully it would be great still to do a public artwork or a public art project, and then also being mindful of taking care of the things that already exist. All right, well, I am hearing that we should lower that 30,000, which is great. Would people be open to it being 5,000? Okay. Do we think that we need this line item workshop training fees, which is currently at 2,000? Or should that be something that's incorporated with the designing local fee?
Either way, I mean, there ought to be some reason we throw that money in the budget. Is there currently a workshop in 2022 that we want to attend or that we may want to attend that justifies creating that line item?
That's a good point.
I mean, it's not like we can't move it around if we don't use it, but
Yeah. I'm not aware of anything at the moment, of any workshop training. I have participated in some free public arts workshops, trainings, which were valuable. And I've seen other paid options through Americans for the Arts. So I'm happy to look into some other options for us in the future.
Does everyone receive the Public Art Network subscription, like the emails that come through? Is everyone receiving that?
mm-mm.
No.
Okay. So I thought Arts Now had, when we first established, had paid for everyone to do it. So I was under the impression that everyone was getting it. Okay.
Yeah, Arts Now has given us accounts or memberships to Americans for the Arts. But yeah, I haven't been receiving those emails as of late. But I'm
Okay.
pretty sure that they've been renewed. I would think that Arts Now is still doing that for us.
Hey, Dara, is that something you can check on?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. And just let me know.
So one of my other questions about this budget is this is all expenses. And we don't have anything for the income. And I know we're pulling from the, well, we're getting the 25,000 from the 100. Okay, so that's income. Okay. But what I mean, are we aware of any projects that are currently, or any TIF proceeds that we would be receiving for this upcoming budget year? Because the way I'm looking at this is now we're at 34,000, and I know you're gonna make some adjustments, whatever. But even if we're at 25,000, then basically we're alive for the next 4 years. And so I'm just wondering, you know, how do we increase that income or or what have you? Or what does it look like on the horizon for income?
As far as tips,
Because we weren't even supposed to, I mean, honestly, this 100,000 came out of nowhere. So I know we've talked about some other grants to write for. And then I think and like, who's going to write for those grants? Is that going to be the administrator, or are we relying on the actual city office to do that as they write for other grants in other areas of the city? And I'm sorry, I cut you off, Summer, so my apologies.
oh no, you're fine. You're fine. So to answer your questions, I am working on trying to get some funding, hopefully from our capital budget,
Yep.
which is still in works. It's not finalized as of yet. So I do have something like that on the table, well, something about that on the table. Secondly, crap, I need to start writing notes. TIFs. We're probably not going to receive any funding through TIFs for maybe another 2 years. It just depends on if we have any development projects. Hopefully we'll have some projects coming down the pipeline in end of 2022, 2023. But as far as receiving the funding, the 1% that the commission will get, I don't see us having any TIF funding until 2024. And that's what I was told.
Mhm.
What was your other question? I'm sorry.
The grant writing.
Okay. As far as the grant writing right now, the mayor's office does have a grant writer, and she is willing to help. But when we find a grant, please note, or if you guys find a grant, please notify me. I always have to make sure that the grant will pertain to the public arts. And then we have to give some information. So for like Design for Good, we kind of had to give the budget and kind of like the mission of the public arts and things like that in order for her to fill it out. So we kind of have to do the legwork, and then she'll apply and then monitor the grant. So we do have help with the grants here.
Okay. So we have a question mark around us receiving any funds from the city's budget.
Yeah, that'd be to be announced if it's approved.
So I guess I would like to make some suggestions about the budget. It seems like we could collapse that designing local and the workshop training fees into one and work whatever we need support more in. I would say that we could fund from just one item for that. Does that make sense to everyone?
So far as what you're saying is like, what's the most important thing you guys want from designing local, and put that into the workshop training?
I think we can collapse it into one line item, since designing local is providing some sort of training opportunities for us, that we could collapse it and just make it one line item, designing local workshop training fees, and still keep it at 5,000, if that sounds good to everyone, or if we wanted to bump it up to 6,000, we could.
Yeah, I mean, without having quotes from them or knowing exactly, but I agree with the combining the two.
Okay.
I still get a little bit confused on us having a budget for like the website administrator
Yeah.
and the
agree.
website when the city already has those. Like I get a little confused on like, why are we paying for something that already exists as a service or role within the city?
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand a public art project. I can understand specific training for us
Mhm.
under public arts. The curator, I can even understand that. But like the submittable software fee and the website stuff, I don't understand why that would have to be part of our budget. And even the administrator.
I did a little hunting around in the last couple of days, and it didn't appear that any other commission has its own independent website. If I couldn't find one if they do. They all seem to have really like rudimentary and very simple pages linked to the city's website, which are kind of lackluster for a public arts commission. So I do think that it would benefit Akron in general to have a snazzier website for its public art commission than it does for its, I don't know, any other commission. But yeah, it seems to me that there ought to be some sort of middle ground. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. We should, what we have up there now is actually pretty nice. I think it was done by Am Strategy. And I think that's great. I just don't think that we should have to incur the expense of maintaining it, especially since it's to your point, representation on the city of Akron. So they're receiving the benefit of it as well. And when I take a look at this initiative and the importance of this initiative to Mayor Horrigan, I would think that, something like this, and I know that it's only, $230 for the website, but even the administration of that, I don't even know if that $2,100 is going to continue to be needed since we're already up and running. Obviously we need to update some pictures of some art commissioners that are no longer, public art commissioners are no longer part of the commission, or new ones to come. But I don't know the format of the website either, that it wouldn't surprise me if there's not somebody in the city who could actually do those things. There's some simple functionality of websites that I would presume that this one has.
Yeah, and it seems to me that some of this underlying administrative stuff is what we should be pulling for sure out of the city's budget. Do the other commissions have to budget for administrative functions, or are those just implied and assumed by the city for the commission?
That I'm not sure of, so I will have to definitely find out. I have asked about public arts
Because we shouldn't be setting that precedent.
being linked to the city of Akron's website. And right now, I know they're working on trying to enhance the city's website. There's not much more room where anything else can be connected to our site until things are upgraded and upgraded. So we'll have to wait on that, but I will definitely ask again, and I will find out about other commissions.
Yeah,
Vanche, do you know if any other commission pays for their own website, or is everything through the city of Akron's website?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I really think we want to look into that, because I also don't think we want to be the commission who sets the precedent of taking that financial burden out of the city of Akron and putting it on a commission. You know what I mean?
I will find out and get back with you guys.
All right.
Well, so I'll wait until we get to the design for good. Well, I'll wait till we get to that point.
Hey, I do have a quick question. The workshop training, I know we collapsed it into one, but my question is, does this include workshop and training that's outside of the training and workshops that Design Local might have? So if there's something else that's outside of what they're proposing, does that funding include that? Because if not, then I feel like we should add that line back, workshop and training fee. It doesn't have to be $2,000, but I mean, it could be something like 1,000 or something, because there might be something outside of that I'm sure, like, maybe all of us can't go, but we might have one or two commissioners that might want to go. And of course, provide feedback to our group, so I just wanted to make sure, just need some clarity if training outside of what they're doing, is that included in this budget?
That would be separate.
Okay. So I think in that case, and I think we should,
Keep it.
that line should be there, but it doesn't have to be $2,000. I think it should be something definitely a lot smaller.
Okay.
Yeah. Or it can just be a line item that we don't fund this year that just hangs out and waits for next
True.
year.
That's another option as well. Yeah, I agree with you, Jill. And then my other thing too is, I've been thinking about this a lot. The funding for just public art projects, I think the Public Art Commission should be a project. And what I mean by that is, I feel like I love the website that we have, but there's still no identity of actually who we are. And like, for example, like a logo or something that kind of represents the commission, the Public Art Commission? What does that look like? So when we're going out there, we can say who we are, but I wish there was something visible that kind of recognizes who we are. Now, I don't know if that grant can help with a logo or something that identifies who we are, but there needs to be something out there. I feel like we're missing something, and I think that's part of that identity of who we are. So that was something that I was thinking about.
Yes, the design for good from Triad would be brand development, including a logo, color schemes, and anything that's kind of brand identity. Did y'all get a chance to look over that overview that I had sent yesterday?
I cannot pull that one up.
Okay.
So the one thing I want to make comment about that, I'm glad that that's a grant, because in the document, an administrative guide for the Akron Public Art Program, it says where, how we can use funds. And nothing here states that we can use it on training or promotional materials and things like that. We can use it on promotional materials and public events directly related to artwork. So I'm a little bit, I want to make sure.
I'm sorry, can you restate that?
Yeah, so it says in the administrative guide
Mm-hmm.
for the commission, it says that, we set up a budget, all that kind of stuff, but the use of the funds doesn't include, everything for the use of the funds has to do with artist fees, artwork, acquisitions, relocation of artwork, permits and insurance for fabrication of artwork, everything to do with public artwork, curators, but it doesn't mention anything about promotional material for the Public Art Commission, which I'm glad we've got this grant coming in. It doesn't mention, the website. It doesn't mention trainings for us, that type of thing. And I can put this in the chat for everybody to see. So all I care about, doesn't mean that it can't. I just want to make sure that we're not going off. There's a stated document here, and I want to make sure we're following it and or challenging it and having it changed.
Right. I think you're looking at the administrative guide for Akron.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Cool. So I guess my thought is that funding is city specific, whereas this brand development is a grant. So
Which is fine. I agree. It's separate. That part I agree, but when
I see what you're saying.
Danica mentioned about promotional material for us and all of that, if that can fall under that, that's great as well. I just don't want any of us to be scrutinized or what have you for spending dollars on training us when those dollars are supposed to go toward what's stated here in this document.
I see. Okay. You're talking more specifically about the training.
So the Akron Public Art Commission and Public Art Program, the document that you're probably reading, that was the cultural plan that, was provided. This commission is supposed to be funded through the TIFs, right? So everything that state
mentions 3 different ways for it to be funded. It can come from the Akron Capital Improvement Project budget, the general fund, which is operations, or through the TIF, and or grants or contributions from private entities, public agencies, or other philanthropic sources. So we received the philanthropic source of the 100,000. We have we're getting the grant, which we're kind of isolating that separately, that's how it's written. That's fine. That's a separate thing. But it doesn't mention, hey, you can use this on an administrative person and you can use this on a website enhancement and you can use it on training for the commissioners. So I just want to make sure that we're being very synced or what have you and how we're doing this.
Right.
To my knowledge, and this is maybe just an assumption, I thought we were all vetted to understand how public art works from our own professional corners, that when we was pulled together, that then we were kind of like hitting the ground running, let's start projects on whatever the allotted money was. Like, I didn't feel like I should have been worrying about, again, website, administrative, anything like that, or even to the very extensive point of grants and money, that there was something set up where now we're looking and bringing in artists and then evaluating what's already been established as public art to make sure we are the united front for future projects, but also preserving what's already here in Akron, and then maybe creating more projects or collaborating with others in the city to do something like that. So to me, it's starting to go in circles about our conversation of what is not and what is. And with this $25,000, we should start creating or going with the wrap boxes or coming up with something else. I know how we can make call. It's several ways you can call for artists, allot that money to pay artists, materials, and go from there. And then put time frames. We got a project. People tend to throw money when things are done. I mean, the Public Art Commission, great, we established, but now that we're running and trying to make a legacy for the next group of people, we need to now focus on, okay, let's get this project done, because it is what it is. Like I'm taking the notes, I'm seeing the same conversation be repeated.
So Dara, what I'm hearing you say is focus on what we're supposed to be doing, which is public art.
Yes,
Disregard the trainings, disregard the website, disregard all that other stuff. Focus on the public art, put dollars toward the wrapping the boxes or whatever the one thing that instantaneously hits my mind to what you said is of course we'll get the attention for that, which will help to get our name out there in regards to our function, right? So I think that's phenomenal. And I think all of that is exactly what's written in that administrative guide. So I wholeheartedly agree with it.
Yep, me too.
And if we're going to use designing local more, then that's great. But that $5,000 should come from, should be handled on the city's operational budget.
I
And
think
outside-
even,
and outside of
yeah,
this.
and even as we go, then you know what is needed.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we need a little bit more understanding on the policy. I don't know. This is just off the top of my head. But as you go in the project, then you'll know, well, we may need a little bit more in this area that Design Local has already covered in other spaces that we may not be fully knowledgeable about. Then you can do the a la carte. Well, I need you here. Versus I'm paying this big lump sum and we may not even use you. And then that's taking the money away from paying artists and people in the community to do the public art, to say the city of Akron is doing has a public art commission.
Yep.
Period. And this is what we're doing.
So the other thing I like about your suggestion is that it just gives us one singular focus, which is really what I think we need at this time, because none of us, we didn't all want to take on a second job or what have you, or a third in some cases. So I think it just gives us that singular focus. And then I think all that other stuff needs to be kicked back to the city to cover. Or we continue to find some other grants like we just did with Triad and Designing for Good.
And that will come even with the collaborations. It's people, just in my position as arts now, it's people trying to find other people to give the money to, because they may not have the capacity or all the withal, but that's where the commission comes in to say, okay, we have this, we have some artists, because we all have different wheelhouses, to bring that type of space together in order to get it done. And then money does come with that. People are trying to find residencies, spaces to put art. And then if it's city property, of course, it all makes sense. But we just need to move on it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Dara. Thank you for refocusing us all.
Yep, I agree too. Just wanted to chime in with that. Thank you.
All right.
I totally agree too also, because, I think people are waiting on projects. And, I'm doing my part. We're trying to find money, right? So I'm asking the questions, I'm knocking on doors, trying to find funding for public arts, because I know with the TIF, we're not going to have any money. So, right now you guys have a budget. I'll try to work on that. And if you guys can come up with some different type of art or public art to do within the city of Akron, we have so many spaces, so many areas that just need something to uplift the city.
I thought we've already decided that we wanted, like the Horgan wanted to get the electrical boxes.
Traffic boxes.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. But there's a lot more to that right now, I guess, that that funding's not, I'm hoping that funding is not coming out of the public arts. I'm hoping that funding is coming out of something else.
Okie doke.
So that's what I've been working on, because
Okay.
again,
So does that mean capital?
yeah, I think we talked about that before, was the traffic boxes, the funding will not come from the public arts. It's hoping to come from somewhere else.
Okay, but I do
So
think
I
that
am
the perfect project it needs to be vetted through the Public Art Commission no matter what.
correct.
So that's still a good feather in our cap. So I think that's great.
Mhm.
And then, so then you're just asking for other locations for public art.
Yes, for you guys to come up with something
So we should just
and do a call
reshift.
for art.
Okay, so we should reshift and go with the things that we are coming up with. Beside, we're not even worried about mayors. This is his personal project, or money that's somewhere else that has nothing to do with this $25,000.
This is the
So-
project that yes, I'm sorry, finish, I'm sorry.
Okay, so that's a whole different bucket, and that could be for the second commissioners to be doing. If, as far as just money and trying to get funding. So our focus should be the $25,000, trying to find if we want outside mural, sculpture, whatever, on city property. So do we have access to a list of property that is available? Or then also maybe talking about who we could collaborate with to do a project?
Wait, before we start that discussion,
Okay.
can we come back to the budget
Okay.
and make edits to this? So I'm gonna take out the designing local line. I'm
Okay.
also gonna take out the website administrator and the website and the APAC administrator from this specifically in the workshop training, since we identified that we want to focus on public art. And that could include the past artwork that's already installed, and then any new projects we have. So as is right now, new public art projects has a line item of 15,000. And then if we were to have a curator assess, that item is 10,000. Does that make sense to everyone?
So that would be a curator to assess a given public art project,
That would be to assess
not to assess the collection.
a public art, yes. So I will update that. curator.
Say that one more time. Pat, can you say that one more time?
Yes. So in the budget, we're updating the curator to assess collection to be curator to assess public art. So that we can have it more broad. It doesn't have to be the entire collection. And we can identify what really needs support with this $10,000 line item.
Okay.
Do we want to pull out a couple $1,000s to maybe throw into a discretionary line? So if something, groovy comes up, we've got a little money to throw at it. That wouldn't be taking, I mean, rather than put our entire $25,000 into two things, do you want to pull out just a tiny bit and have discretionary line item in case there's something this year that we want to do that might use a couple $1,000s?
I have a
I think
question.
that's fine as long as it's pointed to public art that's written up in this
Right.
document. And the only other thing I'll mention with this too is not only a new public art project, but is there a piece of existing public art that is in dire need of being refurbished that we'd want to do that? I think that's something else that we should consider.
Yeah,
I
so
like-
maybe,
Sorry, I agree with you, but to refurbish seems like a pretty easy way for us to kind of make our mark early on and say, we're going to come in and help. Here's a couple. It's probably not that expensive either to go through the city, identify pieces that might need help, and then do that. Maybe it would give encouragement to other people to apply, or just kind of a way to get ourselves out there through media and whatnot. I think that's a easy and inexpensive thing for us to do.
Now, would that be a line item like restoration, a type space?
Yeah, we can update that so it's restoration, maintenance. I'm
Now,
gonna
could that come out the curating? $10,000, that's a lot for curating.
especially if we're starting with an intern this year.
No, the intern was from last year. So,
But we are working to get one for this year.
okay, cool.
So that's why I just put in the comments, what's the difference, right? So what would you want the intern to do, which is only $1,050 versus a $10,000 curator? Like, what would the difference?
The money.
Yeah. The intern need to be a paid internship?
Yeah, I think we should offer paid internships. That's my thought about that. I think someone has already gone through, our previous intern listed a bunch of public art projects or public art that's already existing. I think the next step would to then identify what is actually on city property versus what is on private property.
And her fee was, you said 1,050?
Well, she went through a program through the University of Akron.
Mhm,
So we did not have to pay for the first intern.
mhm.
That was all provided through the University of Akron.
Okay.
We should pay for an
But
intern.
technically, yeah, their fee is $1,050. They give you 100 hours. Technically it's $1,000. The 50 is whatever, but I gave her all of that. If we can get another intern through that same program, that would be great.
Or can we pay directly? Like if that's 100 hours to do the next step, and that is the 1,050 for the intern, or to someone we are giving a stipend to do that?
You're
From my
saying, I'm sorry,
I thought that it was a match.
Oh, okay.
sometimes.
Okay, cool.
It depends on if the program has extra funding.
Gotcha.
So we went into COVID, a lot of people weren't doing anything, they had extra funding. We want that extra funding, because if not, then we have to take that money out of, what we are trying to work with.
Mhm.
So even if we have to match it, what, 575, I think that's better than
Yeah.
trying to kick out the whole thing. So
Okay, so maybe back to the drawing board. We've got $25,000 in, and we've got 4 legitimate expense line items, which are public art projects, public art maintenance, a curator / intern, and a small discretionary fund.
So I was wrapping the curator intern into one line item for public art maintenance. So right now I have 2 line items, public art projects at 15,000 and public art maintenance at 10,000. So that maintenance would be a curator or an intern.
But the curator of physical maintenance. So shouldn't physical maintenance be its own separate line item?
Okay.
So in essence, you could be, that's what you want to call it. Yeah, most often you use a curator for like a new public art project. The curatorial expertise, that type of thing. And not necessarily for maintenance unless there's a special, maybe that's a title of a specialist who comes in and assesses the artwork for what repairs need to be done, things of that sort. Like we have people that come into the museum to inspect artwork from time to time. We have somebody on staff that can do it, but when it's something more serious, they come in and they inspect and then they give us a quote for what it's going to take to repair that piece of artwork. So you'd have part of that 15,000 and 10,000 to cover both of those situations.
Thank you, John.
Now, whether it's 15 and 10 is enough, I'm not sure.
Right.
We haven't identified the projects. And then discretionary is fine as long as we make sure that discretionary funds are used or points back to public art as defined in that guide.
Right, exactly. It just gives us something that's not designated to be able to use during the year if a project comes up, if something out of the blue comes up that requires a little money.
Yep.
Would that include if we had to go back to design local for something like a la carte?
Could be, yeah. We could use it.
Now, could we split, now this is my last finance question. Could we split the $10,000, like 5,000 to go to the discretionary, which could be including the money if we had to do a la carte, if we had to do something that will push towards public art, to not say, it's not all enveloped, then the other 5,000 to go to restoration and an intern to do any type of assessment. I mean, just starting off to have those different buckets versus a whole big 10,000 for just curating and restoration.
I think it's fine. I think that one thing to keep in mind, all of it is fluid.
Right.
So my point is, if we identify, so it really doesn't matter where it is, I think just having the line item there is good. So we might all decide on a public brand new project and it's coming in at $10,000. So we know we've got 5,000 that we can move over to maintenance, or we know that we can not spend it all. So because we can, I think during the course of our meetings, we can vote to move those funds or what have you.
Yeah.
We all do that with our own budgets at a given moment, as long as it's not grant restricted. So or donor restricted.
Okay, so is everyone on board with keeping these 2 line items then? And then if anything comes up that we could vote on it?
I do like Jill's idea about putting a discretionary line in there,
Okay.
just so that the line itself is in there, and I put $5,000 in there. Because if indeed, as I just mentioned about moving things around, we can already, it's almost like we've planned for it in case it happens. So I just think if this is going to be approved by the city council, then, and this is our first budget to put in front of them, then we know that we've always have that line in there, because something else could come up a year from now, 2 years from now, or whatever into our future. So it's more about just putting that placeholder in, for lack of a better term. And I think that's completely fine.
Yeah,
All right, so now I updated it. So we have 15,000 in public art projects, 5,000 in public art assessment and maintenance, and 5,000 discretionary. Okay, cool. Is there any final edits or feedback? Otherwise, I'd like to move to approve this budget. Motion to approve the budget as is.
I think as amended after we all see the amended version.
Okay, motion to
You
approve.
could do a share screen if you want to knock that out, Kat.
I would love to do that.
Because I can see you changing it here on the Google Docs.
Great. All right, everyone, can you see my screen?
Do we want to stick the $3,000 grant in here that we received as income, or do we not want to include that in here?
My opinion is not to include that because the budget is supposed to be set up based on the guide, which is all for public art. And given the fact that that grant seems to be like a separate grant that's going to be toward marketing and branding of the Public Art Commission.
That makes sense.
So I just think keeping it clean would be my advice, but the council might, or the city might feel differently about that. But I like the fact that we're lining up toward what's already been approved by city council as this administrative guide.
Like it.
Good.
Okay, I'll move to approve the budget as amended and seen on our screen.
I second, or, yeah, motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say aye. Okay, budget has been approved. Thank you all for your work on that. All right, I do think that we could talk about the Design for Good grant and what we would be looking at our next meeting. It would be brand development, logos, color scheme, all of that falls under that kind of brand guidelines. So if y'all could take a look at the overview that I sent, please let me know too if you have any trouble accessing the documents I sent. And then we can talk about that a little bit more at our next meeting. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Great. And then also just a reminder, if anyone would like to nominate themselves as vice chair, please email Summer, and then hopefully we could make that a part of the next meeting as well. Voting on our next vice chair. At this time, we don't have any reading of public comments. So I'd like to offer this time if anyone else has anything that they would want to talk about at this time before I adjourn the meeting. Okay, great. It would also be great, since now we have this budget finalized, to start thinking about our own public art projects that we want to do. So definitely bring in ideas for our next meeting. And I will also reach back out to my contact to see what our public assessment maintenance quote would be. But then also, if y'all have any recommendations of what we need to focus on, that would be great feedback as well. I did the Rubber City statue since that's our newest project. But if there is anything that is in much need, we can also look at that as well.
So was there already a plan provided, a maintenance plan provided when that was constructed, or? I mean, there should be some sort of, I don't know who headed that up.
Yeah, I am
You're
not
talking about
sure.
the statue, the Rubber Worker
Yeah.
statue?
Mhm.
I will have to look to see if there was.
The other thing that I
Right,
wondered
that was
about,
done. Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I also wonder about that. Well, I have a feeling I know the answer, but if that happened prior to the establishment of the Public Art Commission,
It did.
who really owns the maintenance of that? Does it come through the Public Art Commission, or is it a separate, or is it like the maintenance department of the city? So I just think we need clarity on that.
Ultimately, it is the city.
Ultimately, it is the
Oh,
city,
yeah,
but
ultimately, all this is the city.
yeah, so I'm assuming it all comes back through. Like I said, I might have answered, yeah, you're right. So
Have any.
would it help to have that
documentation?
slide deck resent out, Kat, that had all of the,
Yeah, I will make sure that's a part of my next email to y'all, so you
thanks.
can take a look at what the intern has already kind of started, and she did do a maintenance record. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good starting point. Definitely, there's some public art projects that are on privately owned lands. That's not necessarily City of Akron public art. So I think that will take some research on our end to figure out what our prioritizations are.
I'm sorry, are you talking about far as the collection of art that we have so far?
Yeah,
So, okay, to differentiate what's city property and what's public, okay.
yeah. What is on private land and versus what is City of Akron?
Okay. Yeah, she had given 111. Well, some of those pictures are duplicated, just closer art pieces. So I'll review this and I'll see if I can try to pull out what is private, and then I can scan it and forward to you guys again.
Awesome. Yeah, if you don't mind doing that, that would be really helpful. Thank you. I think that there was some like artwork that was in the Akron Library, and I know that some murals on some private buildings was included too. So yeah, having that differentiation would be really helpful.
And if you guys take a look, just throwing it out there, you guys don't have to take this project, but inside the city building, Municipal Hall, if you're going down the little walkway coming from City Center into the municipal building, there's a walkway with art that's been up there for about 20 years. And she provided those pictures too. It was like foam stuff stuck on the walls and painted. That would be a great project to take on and do something with.
Yeah, we can definitely discuss. I would like to do something that's a little bit more public for public art projects. But yeah, we can definitely talk more about what we're interested in pursuing at our next meeting. All right, everyone, if there's no other feedback or comments, I am going to end our meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say aye. All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for your
Thanks,
time.
everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your week.